Cold doctor never touched a woman, insane night with a 18-years-old girl drives him to the edge. The reputation of Dr. Samuel Carrick preceded him like a chilling wind. Known as the Iceman of Thornvale Hospital, he never so much as brushed against a woman's hand. No smiles, no warmth, just his cold, sharp gaze that sent shivers down the spine of anyone who dared to approach. And yet, on a stormy night that felt torn from a supernatural tale, fate had a wicked twist in store. A mysterious figure lurked in the shadows of his sterile office, a flaunting 18-year-old girl named Lila, whose breathy laughter echoed through the chilled air. Her wild, dark hair framed a face that sparkled with mischief, as if daring the doctor to break his own rules. She sauntered in like a tempest, shaking up the ice that encased his heart. What does a girl like her want with a man like him? It was a question that clawed at his mind. As she leaned closer, the air was charged, thick with unspoken desires. Dr. Carrick's heart pounded like a drum, echoing in his chest louder than thunder outside. He should have been repelled, disgusted. Instead, something primal stirred within him, a longing he had buried deep. Was it madness, or was it something more? Every flicker of Lila's gaze set off a fire he thought he had doused long ago. Their contrasting worlds collided in unexpected silence, the kind that screamed louder than chaos. But wait, what was that? Outside, a strange sound pierced the howling wind, a low, haunting wail. Instinctually, both their eyes darted to the window. Had someone cried for help? He felt his heart galloping, fear bubbling in his throat. Before he could act, Lila's hand reached for his, trembling ever so slightly. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the storm howled like a banshee outside, vibrations of fear and anticipation crackled in the air. Lila leaned in, a whisper escaping her lips. Are you afraid, doctor? His breath hitched. The night was far from over. Outside, shadows danced in the flickering light, and somewhere beyond the chaos, a secret was waiting to be uncovered. What was it about this girl that sent him spiraling into an abyss of confusion and desire? And what sinister truth lay hidden behind the doors of Thornvale? The storm raged on, but the real tempest was just beginning. The thunder roared like an angry beast, drowning out the unsettling silence that had followed Lila's question. Dr. Carrick felt like he was caught in a storm within a storm, the weight of Lila's gaze anchoring him to the ground even as his instincts screamed at him to run. He turned his head slightly, glancing back toward the window. Outside, the night had turned sinister, like a black canvas splattered with fleeting flashes of lightning. Each crack of thunder pulled him deeper into chaos. Did you hear that? Lila's voice broke through the tension, lilting yet urgent. Her eyes widened, anxiety bleeding into her playful facade. She wasn't just a wild spark of youthful energy, she was a girl entangled in the fear that now clawed at him too. Stay close, he reacted instinctively, and before he could think better of it, he took a step closer, bridging the gap that had formed a violation of his sacred distance. What was he doing? But in that moment, she trembled again, her hand tightening around his. The warmth of her skin sent jolts of electricity shooting through him, igniting a conflict raging between duty and desire. Suddenly, a series of muffled thuds broke through the wind, echoing from the hallway outside his office. Carrick's heart dropped, a pit of dread forming as he turned toward the sound. It was too close. Something was wrong. Lila, stay right here, he instructed sharply, repositioning himself between her and the door, instincts honed from years of medical training alerting him to the possibility of danger. He cracked the door slightly, the hinges protesting in low groans. Doctor, what if it's someone in trouble? Her voice trembled with urgent curiosity. a hint of excitement, almost as if she relished the thought of adventure. The rational part of his mind wanted to say that it was merely the storm playing tricks, but dread layered over his thoughts like a heavy fog. At that moment, the low wails outside morphed into frantic screams, rising in pitch and crashing against the walls of his logic, against every fiber of his being urging him to retreat. He swung the door open, ready for whatever lurked in the shadows. What he saw left him gasping. A figure staggered down the corridor, soaked to the bone, clothes torn, fear-streaked face hardly recognizable. "Help me!" the figure cried, but the voice was unsteady, echoing with a desperation that sent chills crawling down Carrick's spine. He wasted no time, shouting back, called for security, "Lila." At once, he was drawn to the struggling figure, realizing with a jolt that he recognized her. The ethereal beauty of Samantha, the star of the hospital floor, was crumbling before his eyes. Her light was fading, the strength draining from her limbs like a distant star collapsing into darkness. "What happened?" he demanded, his hands instinctively reaching for her, desperate to touch the warmth of life. Heat radiated from her, but it was quickly being replaced by a pallor that made his stomach churn. I saw her. The girl in the mirror." Samantha gasped, eyes darting around, searching for something only she could see. "Doctor, she's coming." Carrick's body froze. The wails outside transformed into a collective howl, almost as if the storm itself echoed her fear. Suddenly, Lila appeared at Carrick's side, her face pale, eyes wide as she grasped the gravity of Samantha's terror. "What does she mean?" Lila whispered, glancing between Carrick and Samantha, panic lacing her voice. The doctor inhaled sharply, the air thick with foreboding. The night had morphed into a nightmare, and just when he thought the storm could not get worse, he realized the sinister revelation was yet to come. "Lila, we have to find out what she saw." Before he could finish, the lights flickered, the storm rattled the foundations, and a chilling presence filled the office. Something was stirring, waiting in the shadows for its moment to strike, and in that moment, they were no longer just three souls caught in a storm. They were being hunted. What had Samantha seen in the mirror, and how would it change everything? The air was electric, charged with fear that clung to the skin like thick fog. Carrick looked down at Samantha, whose body trembled violently in his grasp. Her glazed eyes met his, begging him for something he couldn't provide. "Lila, please," he urged, his voice barely above a whisper, "you need to get to safety. Don't look back. Just run." But Lila didn't move, rooted to the spot beside him, her face a mask of horror and curiosity. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, disbelief grappling with the need to be brave. Before he could answer, Samantha wheezed, her voice frail, cracking with urgency. "The mirror, it shows you, your darkest fears." We were warned. A shiver raced through her body, and she clutched at her chest, gasping, "We must leave this place, it's here." The room felt like it was shrinking, the shadows creeping in around them. Carrick glanced at the door, the only barrier between them and the unknown terror that stalked the corridors of the hospital. "Samantha, what did you see?" he pressed, fighting the knot of dread tightening in his throat. He needed specifics, a clue, anything to help understand what they were up against. "Not just a girl, a reflection," she said, her breath strained. "It showed me things. Things I've done, things I never wanted to remember. It feels alive." The truth clawed at him, throbbing in his temples like a bad headache. All the nights spent erasing memories, burying emotions, and denying feelings rushed to the forefront of his mind. Could it be that the mirror reflected not just a shadow, but a past he couldn't escape? "Carrick." Lila's voice cut through his spiraling thoughts. She stepped closer to him, her eyes darting back to where Samantha stood, trembling against the wall, wild energy still crackling in the room. "What if it's real? What if we can see it too?" For the fleeting second that followed, Carrick's heart pounded in rhythm with a primal fear. He had always prided himself on maintaining control, but here, amidst the chaos and storm, the control began to slip through his fingers. He shook his head, trying to tether himself back to reality. "No. You can't trust what you see in the mirror, Lila. It's a trap. Before he could finish the warning, the lights flickered again, more violently this time, casting elongated shadows that seemed to sway and pulse like living creatures. Help! I need to go. Samantha screamed, her voice rising to a pitch as she stumbled backward, eyes wide and filled with terror. At that moment, the door slammed shut by an unseen force, the echo reverberating like a gunshot in their ears. They jumped, the reality of their situation crashing down around them like waves. Lila! Carrick yelled. We need to. Before he could finish, the lights dimmed, plunging them into near darkness with only flickers of lightning illuminating Samantha's fear-stricken face. Just as his throat tightened, a low voice echoed in the room, chilling them to the bone. Why did you leave me? It hissed, breaking over them like a wave of ice-cold water. Instinctively, Carrick pulled Lila closer, shielding her, even as his heart crashed in his chest. He had to protect her, but the line between protecting and hiding was becoming indistinguishable. Do you see her? Samantha gasped, her fingers trembling as she pointed to the mirror that now loomed ominously at the far end of the room, its glass surface reflecting a twisted version of reality. He hitched his breath, dread pooling at the base of his stomach as he dared to glance at the mirror. But before he could lock eyes with whatever dwelled beyond, the darkness erupted into chaos. The storm rattled the windows, and the whispers morphed into screams that clawed at his sanity. Lila, he whispered, we can't look too long. Whatever's in there isn't human. But it was too late. Their eyes were held captive, drawn irresistibly to the image that began to solidify in the mirror, a glint of something sinister, something that matched their own fears. What would it show them? As laughter bubbled up from the depths of the reflection, Carrick felt the ground shift beneath them, the air growing thick with dread. He realized then that the storm outside had nothing on the storm brewing within their very souls. And in that moment of impending horror, he knew they all had a past begging to be confronted, but who among them would survive it? The laughter echoed, shrill and distorted, wrapping around Carrick like a noxious fog. His heart thundered in his chest as he fought to pull Lila away from the mirror's grip. We have to go now. He barked, urgency flooding his voice, shaking her out of her trance, but Lila simply stood there, eyes wide, lost in that terrible reflection. It's so beautiful, Carrick, she murmured, a sweet sadness lacing her voice. What is she? The figure in the mirror shifted, revealing a hauntingly familiar face, one that made Carrick's breath hitch in his throat. It was young Lila, her childhood innocence splashed across the reflective surface, but there was something darker lurking behind those doe-like eyes. Lila, no. He reached for her, desperation clawing at him. That's not you. It's a trick. But Lila's face softened as if she were being beckoned into a dream. I remember that girl, I wanted to be her again. As she drew closer to the glass, Carrick felt the air grow colder, a chill seeping into his bones. Samantha's voice cut through the haze, desperate and sharp. This isn't the way. It's feeding on your desires. Samantha turned from the fear that gripped her and faced Carrick, her eyes pleading for courage. We need to break the spell. Look away. The shadows thickened, swirling with a life of their own. Carrick's gaze flickered back to the mirror, where both their reflections warped and twisted, pulling him into a realm of anguished memories. There lay buried secrets, faces he had tried to forget, words that haunted every late-night thought. Stop. Both of you. He shouted, feeling his control fraying with each passing second. You can't surrender to this. But even as he struggled to fight the darkness, it seeped deeper into his mind, taunting him with images of moments he wished he could erase. A sudden flash of lighting illuminated the room, momentarily freezing the scene. In that flicker, Carrick saw behind Lila's innocent guise the pale ghost of the girl she once was, dimmed under the weight of loss and regret. Lila, remember who you are. He cried, hoping to pierce through the enchantment. You are not that girl. You're alive. You're here with me. The hint of recognition sparked in her eyes, but doubt battled hard. What if I want to see her again? She whispered, as if the mirror could offer answers to questions they weren't ready to confront. No. You can't. Carrick's voice broke, desperation swelling inside him like a wave threatening to drown them both. Don't let it trick you. Frantically, he pulled Lila toward the door, his body straining against the force keeping it shut. A feeling of isolation gnawed at him. He always believed he could shield her from her demons, but in that moment, he realized he had his own to face too. Samantha gritted her teeth, grounding herself against the horror pulling at her. She can't hear us. We have to do something. That's when the ground trembled beneath them, the room vibrating with unyielding energy. Thin tendrils of darkness raced from the mirror, reaching for them like clawing hands. Shatter it. Samantha yelled over the chaos, pulling a heavy metal chair with all her might. What? Carrick's eyes widened in disbelief. Are you insane? We can't just destroy it. Better that than let it consume us. Like lightning, she smashed the chair against the glass. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then the mirror crackled, fissures spiderwebbing across its surface. A deafening roar filled the room, drowning out the storm outside as the image of twisted fears erupted in a blinding light. Lila! Carrick screamed. But he barely registered the sound of shattering glass as a flash of brilliant, chaotic energy enveloped them, blinding him completely. The last thing he felt was a sharp tug, then nothingness. When the light finally faded, Carrick found himself alone in an empty hallway, heart racing, pounding in his ears like a war drum. Lila? Samantha? Where were they? He stumbled forward, eyes scanning every inch of the shadowed corridor. The echoes of the storm still rumbled in the distance, but a new sound joined it, a low, mocking laughter that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The feeling twisted in his gut as a chilling thought gripped him. What if the darkness was not just in the mirror but had leached into the very walls around them? Outside, the wind howled, but in Carrick's heart, a more terrifying realization grew. They had broken the mirror, but what if in doing so, they had unleashed something far worse? Suddenly, a figure stepped into view from the shadows, her face twisted in a knowing smile. Welcome back. You thought you could escape, didn't you? Carrick froze, dread swelling in his chest. What have you done? And before he could react, the figure whispered, You're not alone anymore. The whispers began again, creeping close, coiling like smoke around him. Instinctively, he stepped back, but the walls seemed to close in. What would happen now? Had they truly escaped, or was this just the beginning? Carrick's mind raced as he faced the figure emerging from the shadows. The flickering light cast an eerie glow, revealing her features more clearly. It was a face he recognized, yet didn't he want to. The resemblance tugged at a memory he wished to forget, one that plunged him into a pit of dread. Who are you? He managed to choke out, his voice trembling as the laughter swelled around him. Oh, I'm just a friend, a guide, really, she replied, her tone dripping with malice. You've been set free from one prison, only to step into another. Her words coiled around him like vines, tightening with every syllable. The lungfuls of air he tried to gulp felt ragged, like blades against his throat. A sudden crash echoed through the hallway. He turned, heart skipping as he searched for the source, but the corridor remained oppressive and still. Carrick! A distant voice called out, breaking through the laughter. Lila! He shouted back, desperation surging. He could still feel the pull of their bond, like tendrils wrapping around his very soul, urging him to keep searching. Do you really think she is safe? The figure chuckled softly, her eyes glinting with malicious glee. You all are toys in a game far beyond your grasp. What do you mean? Carrick bristled, fists clenched. Where is she? Where is Samantha? Ah, Samantha, she purred, gliding closer, her laugh swirling in the icy air. She is busy with her own reflection. A rush of ice crept through Carrick's veins. Samantha's determination had been fierce, and yet, would it be enough? The darkness had a mind of its own, and he had witnessed its seductive strength firsthand. Carrick stepped back, grappling with fear as he felt the walls pulsate like a heartbeat. "Let them go." His shout echoed, desperate and defiant. "Let them go." The figure mocked, tilting her head. "Where's the fun in that? You ignited the storm, Carrick. You shattered the mirror." Each word she uttered festooned his chest with fear. Those images of twisted memories, the darkness had seeped from the mirror and had transformed something within these walls, something that desired nothing but chaos. He tore his gaze from her, turning his sights on where Lila's voice had come from. It felt like calling across an abyss, her presence fading. He couldn't lose her, not now, not when they had fought so hard to free one another. A shiver ripped through him as shadows swirled at his feet, reaching up like clawing fingers. "What are you?" he gasped, worried about how vulnerable he had become. "I am the keeper of their desires," she answered, her expression shifting like the flicker of the candlelight. "And now you will join her on both sides." The laughter crescendoed, a maddening cacophony as shards of glass rained down from unseen corners, each piece reflecting moments of despair. Voices screamed from within the reflections, twisted shades of familiarity and hopelessness. "No!" he shouted, bracing himself against the surge of darkness closing in. He had to move. He had to find Lila. He stumbled into a doorway that materialized from the shadows, praying it led him to her. As he crossed the threshold, the laughter dimmed but the air thickened around him. This was it. He felt the brick walls tighten, swallowing him whole. But in their suffocating grip, he stumbled upon a light, glowing faintly. Hope surged through him like wildfire, but a chill struck right behind him. "Did you think it would be that easy?" the figure crooned, her voice slithering around him like poison ivy. Carrick turned to face her, resolute. "I don't know what you are, but I will find them. You can't take them from me." As if answering his defiance, the lights flickered, shadows writhed and twisted into a dark vortex, swirling and beckoning around him. He took a running leap toward the light, every ounce of will propelling him forward. Would he emerge victorious, or would darkness claim him just as it had Lila and Samantha? The swirling portal yawned wide, drawing him in like a moth to the flame, leaving him gasping, what awaits on the other side? And as he vanished into the abyss, the laughter faded into silence before another shriek broke free, echoing through the dark halls, another desperate call for help. The light enveloped Carrick, swift and blinding, obscuring thoughts, fears, and memories. An unsettling sensation of weightlessness washed over him, as if he were floating through a long tunnel of brilliance. He tried to grasp it, to stabilize his chaotic heart and mind, but all he felt was a relentless pull, a magnetic current threatening to pull him far from everything he knew. Then, with a violent jolt, his feet slammed against the ground. He stumbled forward, disoriented, landing hard on a cold surface. Carrick gasped, pushing himself up on his hands and knees, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The scene around him was starkly different. Layered in twilight, the space was vast and hollow, an abandoned expanse that seemed to pulse with the echoes of forgotten lives. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness broken only by a drip that reverberated like distant thunder. "Lila!" he called, his voice shaky but determined. The silence that followed felt like an unwelcome embrace, squeezing the hope from his heart. He forced himself to stand, shaking off the remnants of the darkness that had hung around him like a shroud. "Where are you?" Each step felt uncertain, shadows dancing wickedly at the edge of his vision. Carrick scanned the surroundings, searching for any sign of Lila, or Samantha. Each second seemed to crawl by, a cruel reminder of their shared fear and desperation. Then he heard it, a faint whisper, drifting through the emptiness. "Help please, Lila." Panic surged within him, pushing him to sprint forward, the sound tugging at the very fibers of his being. He needed to reach her, needed to break whatever chain of despair had shackled her. The whispers grew louder, echoing off invisible walls, taking on a life of their own. "Help me!" Help! Around the next corner, he stumbled into a vast chamber, a grotesque mockery of a living room. Old furniture stood like solemn sentinels in darkness, shrouded in decay. In the center, shards of a shattered mirror lay scattered, reminiscent of the prison he had escaped. His gut twisted as he approached the fragments, sickening memories bubbling to the surface. But he pressed on, knowing he had to face it. He knelt to examine the gleaming shards, the reflections revealing grotesque distortions of his own face twisted in fear, sorrow, rage. A voice broke through. "Carrick! Help me! Over here!" He spun, heart racing, spotting Lila crouched in a corner, her eyes wide with terror. Relief surged through him momentarily, but the sight of the dark shapes pressing in around her clawed at his insides. "Lila! I'm coming!" he shouted, lunging toward her. "Don't!" she screamed. "Stay away!" The shadows, flickering like angry flames, reached for him, twisting and curling, eager to claim their prize. "Lila, I can't leave you!" His voice rose with desperation, overpowering the sinister thrumming surrounding them. With every ounce of strength he could muster, he pushed through, but something held him back, a force, icy and unyielding. The air suffocated him as he watched the darkness slip between them, a barrier forming right where their hands would have met. Her eyes, normally bright and lively, glimmered with fear mixed with the weight of acceptance. "You must go, Carrick. You're not ready for this. I can't abandon you." He yelled back, fury erupting in his chest. An ethereal shriek erupted around him, filled with the rage of 1,000 lost souls. He needed to act. With a guttural scream that echoed down to his very core, Carrick charged at the encroaching darkness. He felt raw, vulnerable, like a bullet aimed straight for the heart of the abyss. But just before he reached that terrifying wall, a hand shot out from the shadows and pulled him down. The world spun, engulfing him in a whirlwind of anguish, and once more, he was inside the consuming blackness, farther than before, yet closer to the truth he sought. His heart raced with fear and determination. What awaited on the other side? Would he confront the darkness that kept Lila from him, or would he be swallowed whole, and as shadows closed in, tightening their grip, Carrick felt a sharp chill, one that whispered of choices yet to come. The coldness cut through Carrick like a blade, and with it came a surge of memories, fractured images of laughter, hints of warmth, moments he cherished. He tried to hold on to them, but they slipped through his fingers like grains of sand. He was not alone anymore. From the depths of the darkness, a whisper reached him, caressing his mind like a gentle breeze. Carrick, help no. He snarled back, determined to silence the voices that thrummed with despair. But they multiplied, weaving a symphony of anguish and longing that echoed in his ears. "Lila!" he shouted, the sound swallowed by the void. Desperation painted patterns of light and shadow around him, dazzling but deceptive. Carrick stumbled forward, feeling his way through the pitch black, reminding himself of her warmth, the touch of her hand. Something shifted beneath his feet, and the ground reverberated ominously. He froze, sweat beading on his forehead. Behind him, the shadows stirred with a life of their own, swirling like a tempest. An icy wind swept past, tightening his chest, rattling his spirit. "Stay away." Lila's voice broke through the chaos, frantic and clear. Carrick turned, scanning the darkness. It was shifting and twisting, forming shapes that mirrored his deepest fears. Lines of twisted faces, eyes gleaming with malevolence, emerged from the murk. Their mouths opened in silent screams, threatening to drown him beneath their relentless sorrow. "Lila!" he screamed again, heart pounding like a war drum. Just beyond the darkness, he saw a flicker of light, a thin, silvery line that beckoned him. He hesitated for a heartbeat. Sacrifice was one thing, torment was another. But he couldn't leave her behind. "Take my hand," he yelled into the dark abyss. "No." Lila's voice was urgent, thrumming with panic. "You don't understand. Don't you dare say that. I'll find you." He charged again toward the flickering light, feeling the dark shadows claw at him, enveloping him in their icy grasp. The pressure mounted, squeezing his lungs as panic threatened to consume him whole. Then a form emerged from the darkness, rising like a ghoul. Long, twisted fingers extended toward him, sharpening the air with malice. Carrick froze, rooted in place by a sudden chill that seeped into his bones. "Foolish boy," it rasped, a voice laden with centuries of despair. "You think you can save her? You cannot even save yourself." The creature lunged forward, but Carrick dodged again, adrenaline fueling a desperate escape as he fought against the pressure wrapping around him. Each movement was a testament to his will, each breath a battle cry. He was not going to go down easy. He felt something shift beneath his feet, the world tilting erratically. The floor cracked, fissures spiderwebbing out toward the shadows, absorbing them like a thirsty ground in a drought. "Lila!" He shouted again, the name igniting a spark within him. He could feel her presence growing stronger. A flicker of hope. With renewed strength, he leapt toward the silvery light, every fiber of his being pressed on as he fought against the tide of shadow closing in around him. Just as he reached the edge, a loud wrenching sound erupted, and the darkness roared in protest that he plummeted forward, light engulfing him, awakening something primal within. Could he finally face the truth behind all of this? The dark entity's voice echoed in his mind as he felt the pull of gravity, a warning that what he was about to face was beyond what he imagined, and with the last remnants of darkness clawing at his heels, Carrick hurled himself into the blinding light. What awaited him on the other side? Would he finally confront the truth, or would the shadows claim him once and for all? Carrick emerged into a blinding world, the light so intense it stung his eyes. Gradually, it muted into a soft glow, revealing a scene that dripped with surreal beauty. He stood on a bridge woven of silver mist, arching over a river that shimmered like quicksilver beneath a vast sky filled with ethereal clouds. He could feel the bridge pulse beneath his feet, its heartbeat synchronized with the wild thrum of his own, but even in this exquisite place, shadows lurked like silent predators, hiding just beyond the soft glow. Fear gnawed at him. Where was Lila? A chill skated down his spine, reminding him of the creature's warning. Was this a trap? "Lila!" He called out, voice echoing like a distant memory. The breeze carried his words, but no answer came. Every corner of the world seemed to hold a secret, every flicker of light a new shadow. He hesitated, curiosity dancing with dread. The river whispered his name, urging him forward. Was it leading him to her, or deeper into danger? His mind raced with possibilities, but every thought was interrupted by the gnawing certainty that time was running out. Without a plan, Carrick put one foot in front of the other. Each step sent ripples through the mist, the air thickening with an overwhelming sense of urgency. Suddenly, a figure appeared across the river, silvery hair waving like liquid moonlight, eyes wide with desperation. Carrick. Lila's voice reached him, cutting clean through the heavy silence. His heart raced as he sprinted along the shimmering bridge. Lila. But the bridge began to tremble beneath him, the mist swirling more violently with every step he took. He gritted his teeth, fighting against gravity itself, pushing toward her as she stretched out her arms, an anchor in the tempest. "Wait!" she shouted, her voice laced with fear. "You don't know the truth." "What do you mean?" His breath came in short, jagged gasps. The world began to warp, the river becoming a churning void, darkness creeping from the depths. "Please, Carrick. You have to understand." Just then, the mist coalesced into dark forms again, twisting and writhing. They were not merely shadows, they were memories, reflections of everything he had tried to escape. Faces of loved ones long gone, moments of choice turned regret. They reached for him, their eyes hollow, pleading for recognition. "No. I want to listen to you," he yelled. Panic gripped his heart, but the realization wrapped around it like a vice. Would they tell him a truth he wasn't ready to face? He turned back to Lila, but she was fading into the haze, her voice nothing more than a distant echo. "Carrick, you have to stop," he cried out, desperate to hold on to her. The ground beneath him cracked open, consuming shadows reaching for him, threatening to pull him into despair. He lunged toward her, fingertips brushing against her outstretched hand, but the connection was interrupted by an unseen force. The world shifted violently, and he felt himself falling once again, this time not through light, but into the abyss. Carrick. Her voice faded into a haunting whisper, and as he plummeted, he saw flashes of memories collide, the secrets, the lies, the choices made through the years. Would he awaken in darkness again, or had he finally crossed into something that could break the cycle? As the edges of his vision blurred and the pull of oblivion beckoned, a new question formed: would the truth set him free, or ensnare him within the very chains he sought to break? Carrick's heart plunged deeper into darkness. The weight of uncertainty wrapped around him, squeezing tighter. As he fell further, the sensation of falling transformed. Instead of the expected impact, he landed softly on a bed of mist, its cool touch both comforting and chilling that he gasped for breath, the echoes of Lila's voice still ringing in his ears. "You have to understand." It was a call to arms, a wayward beacon in the fog of his confusion. He tried to gather his thoughts, to piece together the fragments of their last moments together. Slowly, reality bled back in. He pushed himself upright, scanning his surroundings. Gone was the bridge, the silvery sheen of the mist. The world around him shifted to a dimly lit chamber. Shadows danced on the walls, their forms twisting into grotesque shapes as if mocking his fear. Heavy drapes cocooned him, whispering secrets, while an overwhelming sense of dread clawed at his chest. That he stood, his legs trembling beneath him. "Lila." His voice resonated against the stone walls, reverberating like a prayer. But silence answered him, thick and suffocating. As he strained to hear anything above the pulse of his worry, something shifted in the corner of the room, a glimmer subtle, yet insistent. Curiosity tempted him forward, drawing him toward the flickering light. He stepped carefully, hesitant to disturb the stillness. With every step, the warmth of the light grew, wrapping around him like a forgotten embrace. It emanated from a small, ornate mirror perched on a table littered with trinkets that were just out of focus. The mirror revealed not only his reflection but something else. Lila's face shimmered faintly, distorted yet radiant, like a fragile star about to be swallowed by darkness. "Carrick," she whispered, her eyes wide with something that felt like urgency but also a deep sorrow. "You have to find me. Trust your heart. Where are you?" His voice cracked, frustration bubbling over with desperation. The image flickered, revealing for just a moment the chaos behind her, a swirling mass of dark memories, the shadows crawling ever closer around her, threatening to consume her light. Suddenly, the mirror shattered, shards flying like delicate snowflakes, each one reflecting moments from their past, happy laughter, tender glances, and then cruel betrayal. A scream echoed, but it wasn't just a sound, it was the memory of the pain they both bore. Fury ignited in his chest, propelling him back from the table. He staggered, his back slamming against the cold wall, breathing heavily as overwhelmed emotions surged through him. The echoes of that betrayal reverberated too, a tempest of regret and loss, but amidst the chaos of fear, a flicker of hope sparked. Maybe the memories weren't just chains that bound him. Maybe they were pieces of a puzzle he had to solve to find Lila. His resolve hardened. The shadows trying to envelop him were not just monsters, they were truths he had to confront, demons he had let linger far too long. "I will find you, Lila." He shouted defiantly into the darkness, grounding himself in that promise. "I will face whatever it takes." Just then, the air shifted, and the ground trembled. A soft growl resonated in the corners, the shadows growing bolder, swirling angrily around him. The darkness surged, baring its fangs. Carrick took a deep breath, setting his jaw as he stood his ground. The battle for truth, for Lila, was just beginning. But would he have the strength to face the shadows of his past and ultimately find the light? With every heartbeat, he sensed the presence drawing nearer, a promise of confrontation looming just beyond the abyss. What hidden truths awaited him, and were they more than he could bear? The darkness trembled around Carrick, shifting like a living entity. Fear mixed with determination surged through him, each pulse of adrenaline igniting his spirit. He felt behind the malevolence, the shadows thrashed at him with whispers, lost memories clawing at him, demanding attention, threatening to pull him under. "Face me. He shouted, his voice drowning out the murmuring phantoms. I'm not afraid of you. A thunderous laugh erupted from the shadows, wrapping around him like a vice. You think you are in control? The voice seeped into his mind, cold and mocking. You have no idea what you are up against. Carrick clenched his fists, thoughts racing. Lila had called him to trust his heart. A sinking feeling told him that the darkness was feeding off his fears, transforming them into something far worse. He had to let go of the past, only then could he move forward, reclaim Lila, and confront this relentless enemy. As if reading his thoughts, a figure rose from the shadows, a twisted silhouette that morphed into a dark rendition of himself. Carrick's heart stopped. Look at what you've become, it hissed, voice dripping with disdain. A coward hiding behind walls built from guilt. No. Carrick roared, stepping forward, incredulity morphing into fury. I refuse to become you. The reflection twisted and contorted, a mirror of all his regrets, lost friendships, goodbyes never said, love abandoned. Each image surged forth, swirling around him like a tempest, suffocating his resolve. Do you truly believe you can save her? The shadow mocked. You are no hero, you are the architect of your own despair. But Carrick felt the heat of purpose rising within him. The thoughts clashed against each other, but one word stood firm in his mind: resilience. Every shed tear from Lila, every moment of laughter, every fragment of their bond pushed him forward. This wasn't just a battle against his demons, it was a fight to reclaim the very essence of love. I know who I am. He thundered, steely conviction replacing uncertainty. And you will not chain me anymore. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled at his defiance, fragmented images shattering like glass. With each step, Carrick trudged deeper into the darkness, his heart steady, calling for his beloved. Lila. I'm coming. The shadows raged like a storm, wisps racing around him threatening to pull him back. Yet, with every fiber of his being, he refused to relent. He pushed forward into the depths, his voice climbing until it pierced the cacophony. I will fight. The darkness shrieked as he pressed through, gaining ground against the suffocating dread surrounding him. He focused on Lila, her laughter, her warmth, and felt the flicker of light nudging him gently. Then, like a lighthouse emerging from the fog, he spotted her, a vision within the chaos, even as the shadows flared around him, desperate to extinguish the flame she represented. Carrick. Lila's voice, fragile yet unyielding, called out. Hurry. You have to break the cycle. In her eyes, he recognized the truth: the darkness thrived on their separation, on the belief that he could never confront the past. The stark realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. Each step toward Lila was a step toward himself, confronting ghosts long ignored. He lunged forward, stumbling into the swirling shadows surrounding her, but he would not be knocked down. We break this together, Lila. He reached deep within, channeling every ounce of strength he could muster. The shadows howled, retaliating with a ferocity designed to fray his very fabric. You think you can defeat me? The entity howled, vying to plunge him back into despair. That's where you're wrong. Carrick shouted, plunging forward, grabbing Lila's hand. She pulsed with warmth, binding him to truth, reminding him of everything they fought for. In a flash, their connection became a bright light, one that pushed against the darkness like the dawn banishing night. The shadows writhed and shrieked as the light intensified, blinding them both. The air crackled with energy as reality buckled under its weight. Open your heart to the truth, Lila urged, her voice a sweet anchor. And with that final push, the shadows fragmented, shattering like glass, and Carrick felt the breath of freedom wash over him as he pulled Lila closer. The void of darkness collapsed, and for a moment, they stood enveloped in pure luminescence, their fears evaporating into nothing. In their embrace, love flourished, illuminating every shadow that threatened to tear them apart. When the light dimmed, they found themselves on the hospital rooftop, the storm having passed. The air was clear, the stars twinkling above like scattered diamonds. Did we? Lila whispered, awe shining in her eyes as she looked around in disbelief. Yes, Carrick breathed, relief flooding every inch of him. We did. We faced it. Together. In that moment, nothing felt more real. The memories, the trauma had all transformed into lessons strengthening the bond between them. You're safe, he murmured, cupping her face. And so am I. As they stood on that rooftop, engulfed in the freedom of the night, they felt the weight of the past lift as if it had never existed. They had crossed an abyss together, hand in hand. A warm breeze danced around them, a celebration of their connection, and the laughter they had almost lost swirled around the night sky. Promise you'll never let go, she said, a delicate vulnerability brimming in her voice. Never, Carrick promised, pulling her closer, their foreheads touching as warmth enveloped them. And beneath the stars, they healed. They conquered. They lived. Thank you for joining this incredible journey. If you enjoyed our story, you need to subscribe now to never miss an exclusive tale that tugs at your heartstrings. Smash that like button now to ensure you feed the algorithm and help our inner circle grow. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this amazing story. Your support means the world. Let us keep this community thriving together.